The iron-heavy scent of wet wool and rotting thatch fills your nostrils, but it's the taste that truly betrays you. It is the flavor of old grease, salt, and the bitter, chemical sting of tanned cowhide. You are chewing on your own boot. Your teeth, loosened by scurvy, ache with every desperate gnash against the boiled leather. It yields nothing but a phantom oil that coats your tongue like engine sludge. Listen, beyond the rhythmic drumming of the endless gray rain on the roof, there is a sound coming from your own midsection. It isn't a growl. It's a wet, grinding tectonic shift. Your stomach, now a shriveled, acidic prune, has begun to secrete enzymes that find no bread, no pottage, no meat. So they begin to work on you. You are feeling the precise moment your biology turns traitor. This isn't hunger. Hunger is a luxury of the living. This is autophagy. Your body is a house on fire, and to keep the pilot light of your brain flickering, it is tearing down the floorboards and burning the furniture. First, the fat, then the muscle of your thighs, soon the very tissue of your heart. By the time the sun sets, if the sun even exists behind those suffocating clouds, you will realize that the leather in your mouth is the most honest meal you've had in weeks. What comes next is a descent into a biological cellar so dark, the modern world has spent 7 centuries trying to forget ever happened. You are about to witness the collapse of the human machine. This is not a bad year. This is the year the concept of humanity was ground into the mud of Northern Europe. The sky hasn't been dry for 15 months. In the year of our Lord 1315, God has seemingly decided to drown the world in a slow, lukewarm bath. The wheat in the fields didn't just die. It fermented into a gray, hallucinogenic slime. The sheep are bloated carcasses in the mire, their wool sloughing off in clumps. There is no harvest. There is only the mud. Society is a thin veneer of salt and prayer, and both have run out. You watch your neighbor, a man who once shared his ale, staring at his youngest child with a look that isn't fatherly. It's predatory. The price of grain has risen 300%. Gold is useless when there is nothing to buy but the air. Your skin is turning a translucent, sickly yellow-gray. Your hair is brittle, falling out in patches that litter your damp bedding. Every movement is a Herculean effort because your mitochondria are screaming for a fuel that doesn't exist. You are witnessing the Great Famine, not as a historical event, but as a cellular execution. The salts in your body are failing. Your electrolyte balance, the delicate dance of sodium and potassium that allows your nerves to fire, is stuttering. You feel an itch under your skin that you cannot scratch. It's the sensation of your peripheral nerves beginning to fray. If you have the stomach to keep descending into this pit with me, hit the like button. It is the price of admission to the morgue. Only the brave survive the winter of 1315. Let's talk about the mechanics of your demise. When the external calories hit zero, your liver panics. It dumps its last stores of glycogen, giving you a final, cruel burst of energy. You feel a frantic need to move, to hunt, to find anything, but that spark dies within hours. Now, the great devouring begins. Your body is no longer a temple. It is a resource to be mined. By the 4th month of the rains, the biological debt you've accrued starts to collect interest. Look at your skin. It loses its elasticity. If you pinch the back of your hand, the skin stays peaked, a gray ridge of dehydration and collagen loss. You are drying out in a world of endless water. Your sweat starts to smell like a mixture of vinegar and old gym clothes. That's the scent of ketosis. Your liver is frantically converting what's left of your internal fats into ketone bodies to keep your brain from shutting down. But ketones are an acidic fuel. Your blood pH begins to drop. You are literally turning sour from the inside out. Now feel your teeth. They feel long. Your gums are receding, turning a bruised purple because the vitamin C used to get from onions or cabbage is a ghost. Without it, The connective tissue holding your teeth in your skull dissolves. You can wiggle your molars with your tongue. You don't dare chew anything hard. Not that there's anything hard to find. The middle of the night is the worst. The famine cramps arrive. These aren't simple stomach aches. This is your smooth muscle, the tissue of your intestines constricting in a violent, rhythmic spasm, searching for a bolus of food that isn't there. It feels like a cold hand is reaching inside your abdomen and twisting your guts into wet knots. You find yourself curled on the dirt floor, biting your lip until it bleeds just to have a different pain to focus on. And then, the edema. This is the cruelest joke of 1315. You look down and see your belly is swelling. For a moment, a flash of deluded hope. Am I full? No, this is Kwashiorkor. Your blood protein, specifically albumin, has dropped so low that your blood can no longer hold water inside the vessels. The fluid leaks out into your abdominal cavity. You are a walking skeleton with a bloated, waterlogged stomach. You are drowning in your own cellular leakage while starving to death. Every time you stand up, the world tilts. Your blood pressure is so low that your brain momentarily starves for oxygen. You see stars, white bursts of light that the local priest tells you are visions of angels. They aren't angels. They are your neurons misfiring as they begin to flicker out like dying candles. You are losing the ability to process complex thought. You can't remember your mother's face, but you can remember, with terrifying clarity, the exact location of a buried bone you saw a dog gnawing on 3 days ago. Your biceps are deemed redundant. You watch your arms wither, the skin sagging like drapes over the bone. You start to smell like ammonia. That is the scent of your own protein being converted into sugar. You are literally urinating your own muscle mass. Now, look at the pot over the peat fire. There are no vegetables. There is a handful of grass and the bark of an elm tree. You swallow the fiber, but your intestines cannot break it down. The roughage scrapes against your delicate, thinning gut lining. Internal bleeding begins. You feel a warm, dull ache in your abdomen as you slowly bleed out from the inside, all for the sake of a belly full of wood shavings. Your brain begins to shrink. The myelin sheaths protecting your nerves are being harvested for their fats. Logic departs. You find yourself looking at the family dog. He's been your companion for years. But as your frontal lobe thins, he stops being a friend. He becomes 40 pounds of protein. You reach for the rusted iron knife. Your hands don't even shake. The hunger has hollowed out your soul to make room for the beast. The betrayal isn't just biological, it's spiritual. In the high courts of Westminster and Paris, the nobility are still eating. They have salt pork, they have wine. You can smell the wood smoke from the manor house 2 miles away, and it carries the scent of roasting meat. The realization hits you like a physical blow. The system isn't broken, it's working perfectly. It is designed to keep them alive by ensuring you are the first to be sacrificed to the mud. You walk past the village church. The doors are locked. The grain stores the tithes built are guarded by men with polearms who look just as hungry as you, but they have the authority to kill. This is where the head fake happens. You think the law will protect you. You think common decency is a human trait. It isn't. Decency is a byproduct of 2,000 calories a day. At 1,000 calories, you are a philosopher. At 500 calories, you are a thief. At 200 calories, you are a monster. You hear the rumors in the marketplace, the hush-hush talk of the zommen. People who have stopped looking for grain and started looking for short pork. You see a neighbor carrying a heavy sack that is dripping a trail of dark, thick blood into the mud. It isn't the blood of a pig. It's too bright, too red. He doesn't look at you. If he looks at you, he has to acknowledge what he is. If you look at him, you have to acknowledge what you might become by Tuesday. The ultimate betrayal comes from the very ground beneath your feet. The rain has washed away the topsoil, but it has also unearthed the shallow graves of the early winter victims. The smell is a thick, sweet miasma that clings to the back of your throat. And you see them, men and women, driven beyond the brink of sanity, kneeling in the mud of the churchyard, digging with broken fingernails. They aren't looking for jewelry. They are looking for fresh protein. The betrayal is complete when you realize that you aren't disgusted. You are envious. You are jealous of the man who found a piece of carrion before you did. That is the moment your humanity dies, long before your heart gets its last thinned-out thump. You thought the worst was the hunger. You were wrong. The worst is the refeeding. Imagine a miracle occurs. A merchant arrives with a sack of grain. You gorge yourself. You shove the raw, dry oats into your mouth, weeping with joy. This is the moment the history books call relief. It is actually your executioner. Your depleted cells, suddenly flooded with minerals they haven't seen in months, suffer a massive systemic shock. Your potassium levels plummet as your cells desperately try to process the sudden influx of glucose. Your heart, already weakened and thinned by autophagy, cannot handle the shift in electrolytes. It skips a beat, then two, and it simply stops. You die with a mouth full of bread, killed by the very thing you prayed for. The history books try to hide these details. They talk about feudal collapse, but they won't tell you the taste of a grave-dug limb. I bring the truth they burn to light. If you want to see the darkness they tried to bury, subscribe. Don't let me dig through these ruins alone. The Great Famine of 1315 to 1317 wiped out up to 25% of the population of Northern Europe. It didn't just kill people, it reshaped the survivors. If you are of European descent, you are the biological heir to this horror. You carry the Thrifty Gene, a metabolic programming geared to store fat at the slightest hint of excess. A defense mechanism born from an ancestor who watched their family turn into skeletons and decided, never again. Your modern struggle with weight, your body's obsession with storing sugar, it's not a flaw. It's a 700-year-old echo of the rain that wouldn't stop. We live in an age where the greatest medical crisis is having too much food. But under that layer of modern comfort, the dungeon tone of 1315 is still whispered in your DNA. Your body is still waiting for the next great rain. It is still ready to eat your biceps to keep your brain alive. It is still prepared to turn you into a beast. The church told you this was a test of faith. The king told you it was a temporary setback. They lied. They ate venison while you ate your boots. And as the last of the rain fades into the blackness of history, ask yourself, in a world without supermarkets, how many days would it take for your neighbor to start looking at you like a short pork roast? Close your eyes. Feel the dampness in the air. That's not just the weather. That's the memory of the mud. Would you have shared your last scrap of leather with a starving child? Or would you have been the one holding the rusted knife when the dog stopped barking? Answer carefully. Your ancestors already made their choice.